Working with variables. This video discusses the difference between the local and environment variables within a bash shell. A local variable is only available to the shell or the program it was created in. An environment variable is passed on to child processes where they can use it if they wish. Now, if we use the ps command, we can see that we have a bash shell. This is the shell that we are currently in. It has a process ID number of 25501. We also see the ps command. The ps command simply shows you the processes of your shell, and it is a command, it's a program. Every process on the system is a program that is currently running. So we see the ps command. If we were to run the ps command again, we would see again ps, but notice that it now has a different PID number than in the previous command, where the bash shell is the same because we are still in the shell, but every time the ps command runs, it's a separate instance of the ps command. It gets a separate PID number. Now, if we were to create a variable, say today equals Sunday, this is a standard definition, a command to store the string Sunday into a variable with the label today. If we type echo $today, we can see that that string exists. So this is a local variable. It exists in our current shell. Now, if we run the bash command, we now enter a subshell. As you can see, we have our original bash shell up here, 25501, but we now have a second bash, which is our current bash shell. And we can see the PID of this shell by typing echo $. This is a special variable that will show you your current PID of your shell. And so we see that currently our active shell is this bash shell, who has a parent, a PPID, a parent process of 25501, which was our original shell. Now, if I type echo $today in this shell, again, this is the subshell that we've created and we are now working in, we see that we have no value for today, indicating that the variable today does not exist inside our current shell. If we exit our current shell, you can see we're back to just one bash, our 25501, and the variable today does exist. Now, if we use the export command, we can flag the variable today to make it an environment variable. We can view environment variables using the env command. Typing env, we get a complete list of variables, and if we look through here, we can see the string today and the value that is stored there. Okay, so again, by using the export today, now notice when we exported the variable name, we did not put the $, because the $, would say pull out the string Sunday, which is stored in there, and export Sunday. But that's not what we wanted to do. What we wanted to do is simply tell it, take the variable and flag it as an environment variable so that we can see it using the environment command. Now, if again, currently we are in our first bash shell 25501. If we type bash again, now we've created a new shell, and if we type ps-f, you see we now have a subshell. Notice this is a different subshell than the one before, because the one before we exited it, and that shell then was closed. The operating system released that memory back to the shell, or back to the operating system to be used for another program. But within this shell, we can type echo $today, and we see that that variable does exist. So by using the export command to flag the variable as an environment variable, it allowed us to pass this variable from our main shell to the subshell. And by doing this now, we can use this variable in our current shell. Remember that variables only exist in RAM in the current process. So when we close a process or that process ends, all variables are destroyed, releasing the RAM back to the operating system. So if I type exit, the variable today that was in this shell is gone. However, that was a different variable than the original one that I created in this shell. So this variable still exists. Variables only exist in the current shell. What the export command does is it flags that variable to be copied such that a copy of it is made every time you run a child process. Okay. So again, we looked at a local variable. Local variable is available only to the current shell. An environment variable is available to the current shell, but a copy of it, not actually the variable itself, but only a copy of it, will be passed on to any sub-processes created in that command. Now, a sub-process is any command that you run, any program that you run from the command line, you're going to pass it the environment variable. We make it an environment variable by flagging it using the export space variable name. You can, if you wanted to, export a variable and define the variable both at the same time. Okay. Again, the export is simply flagging it to be passed to child processes. Now that is any command, any program that you run at the command line after you've exported this, then a copy of this variable will be sent to that child